The American dream you were sold as a kid has been officially liquidated. And the reality of 2026 is that the middle-class playbook is now a recipe for bankruptcy. If you are sitting there right now feeling like you are running on a treadmill that keeps getting faster while your bank account stays frozen in time, you are not crazy. You are just playing a game that was rigged against you decades ago. Welcome to the Fortune Logic, where we stop sugarcoating the economy and start looking at the cold hard math of how wealth is actually captured when the traditional system is failing. Most Americans are waking up every day and trading the most valuable asset they possess, which is their limited time, for a currency that the Federal Reserve is devaluing by the minute. They call it a steady paycheck, but in 2026, a steady paycheck is the ultimate psychological trap because it gives you the illusion of safety, while inflation and corporate automation quietly hollow out your purchasing power. But here's the secret that the talking heads on the news won't tell you, because it doesn't fit the narrative of victimhood. There has never been a more explosive time in the history of this country to build a massive fortune from absolute zero, if you know how to leverage the digital friction that everyone else is complaining about. In this session, we are going to break down the exact blueprint for outsmarting the current American economic landscape. We are going through the high-level income strategies that the top 1% use to decouple their earnings from their hours. And we are going to look at the brutal reality of cost cutting that goes way deeper than some generic advice about skipping your morning coffee. I am going to show you why your traditional savings account is actually a liability, and how you can pivot into assets that breathe and grow, even while the dollar feels like it is on life support. Stick with me through this entire deep dive, because by the end of this video, you are going to have a perspective on capital that your CPA is likely too conservative to give you. We are going to reveal a specific strategy for reclaiming your tax dollars that most people won't find out about until it is too late to use it this year. So pay close attention to every word. Let's get real about the fundamental shift in how money is made in the United States today. For 100 years, the formula was simple. You go to a university, you get a mountain of debt for a degree, and you find a Fortune 500 company that promises to take care of you until you are 65. That world is dead and buried. In 2026, the most successful people in this country aren't employees. They are solopreneurs who have mastered what I call the skill arbitrage economy. You have to understand that American corporations are no longer looking for loyalty. They are looking for a line item they can optimize. And if a piece of AI software can do your job for $20 a month, they will hand you a pink slip without a second thought. This sounds like a nightmare until you realize that you can be the one wielding that software. The biggest opportunity right now lies in the massive gap between the cutting-edge capabilities of new tech and the slow-moving traditional businesses that run the backbone of the American economy. Your local law firms, your construction companies, and your medical clinics are all drowning in administrative overhead, and they have no idea that there are tools available right now that could cut their costs by 70%. If you position yourself as the bridge between that technology and their outdated systems, you aren't just a freelancer. You are a high-value consultant. You can package these solutions and sell them for $5,000 a pop, while the actual execution takes you a fraction of the time it used to. This is how you stop selling your life by the hour and start selling your brain by the result. But building wealth in America isn't just about the top-line revenue you bring in. It is about the bloodletting you stop at the bottom line. The modern American lifestyle is specifically engineered to drain your bucket as fast as you can fill it. We live in a culture of hyper-consumption, where every notification on your iPhone is a direct straw into your wallet. If you want to build real freedom, You have to stop being a consumer and start being a producer. Look at your credit card statement from the last 30 days, and I guarantee you will see a trail of subscription vampires. We're talking about small charges that you have forgotten about. But because they are automated, you don't feel the sting of the transaction. This is a psychological war used by Silicon Valley to keep you in a state of perpetual outflow. You need to perform a radical audit of your life. Every single dollar that leaves your account needs to be justified in court. If it isn't making you healthier, smarter, or richer, it has to be cut. This isn't about being a cheapskate. It is about being a commander of your capital. When you cut the fat from your budget, you are buying your freedom back at a discount. Think about it this way. If you can reduce your monthly burn by $1,500 through aggressive optimization, that is the equivalent of getting an $18,000 a year raise after taxes. Most Americans will spend a decade climbing the corporate ladder to get that kind of raise. But you can give it to yourself in one afternoon of being honest with your bank statement. The next layer of the fortune logic is understanding the difference between looking rich and actually being wealthy. We see it every day in cities like Miami, LA, and Dallas, people driving leased European cars they can't afford and wearing designer labels while they have a negative net worth. In 2026, the only flex that matters is how much time you own. If you have to show up to a job you hate to pay for a car you don't need, you aren't a success, you are a high-end slave. To break out of that cycle, you have to adopt a defensive mindset toward your cash. You need to treat your dollars like a private army that is sent out to capture more territory. Every time you spend $100 on a trendy dinner, you are essentially executing 100 soldiers that could have been out working for you in the market. When you start to view every purchase through the lens of opportunity cost, your entire relationship with money changes. You stop seeing a $20 bill as a piece of paper and start seeing it as the seed for a future forest. Now we have to talk about where that money goes once you have secured it from the consumption trap. The American stock market for beginners can seem like a rigged casino, and in many ways, if you are day trading, it is. But the logic of long-term wealth is actually incredibly simple if you have the discipline to follow it. The biggest mistake people make is trying to play hero by picking individual stocks based on a hype cycle they saw on a message board. In 2026, the market is dominated by high-frequency algorithms that can execute trades in the blink of an eye. You are not going to outrun the machines. Instead, you need to own the infrastructure. This is where the power of the total market index fund comes into play. By buying a fund like VTI or VOO, you are essentially owning a piece of the American engine. You are betting on the collective greed and ingenuity of the most powerful companies on earth. It is the most boring way to get rich, and that is exactly why it works. It removes the two biggest enemies of wealth, which are your ego and your emotions. True passive income isn't about some secret crypto project. It is about the dividends and capital appreciation of the global economy. The key isn't timing the market. It is time in the market. The magic of compounding only happens when you leave the money alone and let it snowball for years without interference. Let's talk about the strategy of geo arbitrage, because this is the fastest way for an American to 10x their savings rate overnight. If you are working a remote job or running a digital business while living in a high-tax, high-rent state like California or New York, you are playing the game on hard mode for no reason. In 2026, your physical location is an adjustable variable. By moving your tax residency to a state with zero income tax like Texas, Florida, or Wyoming, you are instantly giving yourself a massive pay increase. Beyond that, if you take your American scale income and move to a lower cost of living area, you are effectively hacking the system. You are earning in a strong currency, but spending in a weak one. This allows you to invest 80% of your income instead of 20%. This is the ultimate wealth accelerator that the average American is too scared to try because they are attached to a zip code. But if you want a life that 99% of people don't have, you have to be willing to do things that 99% of people won't do. We have to talk about the silent partner in all your financial dealings who takes a cut whether you win or lose. And that partner is the IRS. Most Americans view taxes as an inevitable disaster that happens once a year. But the wealthy view the tax code as a giant book of incentives. In 2026, the tax landscape has become even more complex with new regulations around digital assets and remote work. But within that complexity lies the opportunity for what I call tax loss harvesting on steroids. If you are holding an investment that has dipped in value, you shouldn't just sit there and hope it recovers. You can strategically sell that asset to lock in a capital loss, which you can then use to wash away the taxes on your winning investments or even offset some of your ordinary income. This is a legal maneuver that allows you to keep more of your money working in the market rather than sending it to Washington, D.C., where it will be spent on things that don't benefit your bottom line. You also need to look into the power of the health savings account, or the HSA, which is arguably the most powerful investment vehicle available to the American public. It is a triple tax advantaged account. You put money in tax-free, it grows tax-free, and you take it out tax-free for medical expenses. In 2026, where healthcare costs are skyrocketing, the HSA is not just a medical fund, it is a stealth IRA that can be invested in the S&P 500 to build a massive tax-free nest egg for your future self. Now, let's pivot to the psychology of wealth, because you can have the best strategy in the world, but if your mindset is fragile, you will fail at the first sign of a market correction. The American media machine is designed to keep you in a state of constant fear because fear sells clicks and fear drives irrational behavior. In 2026, we are seeing more black swan events and market volatility than ever before. The average person sees a 10% drop in the market and panics, selling their assets at a discount to the people who are actually wealthy. You have to train yourself to see a market crash as a giant clearance sale at your favorite store. When everyone else is terrified, that is exactly when you should be the most aggressive. This is the logic of the fortune you buy when blood is in the streets and you hold until the world realizes it isn't ending. This requires you to decouple your self-worth from your net worth. You are a cold-blooded operator of capital, and your goal is to accumulate units of productive assets regardless of the daily noise on social media. We also need to address the trap of the hustle culture that is burning out an entire generation of Americans. There is a difference between being busy and being productive. You can spend 16 hours a day grinding on a business that has no scalability, and you will still end up broke and tired. True wealth comes from building systems that work without you. This is why Ali Abdaal's focus on passive income is so vital, but you have to understand that passive is the result of active work done up front. You spend 6 months building a digital product or a YouTube channel or an automated service business so that you can spend the next 6 years collecting the checks. If your income is still tied to your presence, you don't own a business, you own a job. And a job is the most fragile position you can be in. In 26, you need to be diversifying your income streams so that if one pillar gets knocked over by a change in an algorithm or a shift in the economy, your lifestyle doesn't crumble. So how do we take all of this high-level logic and turn it into a tactical plan you can start tomorrow? I call this the 90-day fortune logic sprint. For the first 30 days, your only job is defensive. You are going to cut every unnecessary expense. You are going to negotiate every bill. And you're going to move your cash into a high-yield account or a money market fund that is actually paying you a real return. You are building your war chest. In the second 30 days, you go on the offensive. You are going to identify one high-value skill that AI can't fully replicate yet, like high-stakes negotiation, complex project management, or specialized technical consulting. And you're going to master the tools that make you 10 times faster than the competition. You are going to land your first client or launch your first digital asset. In the final 30 days, you automate and invest. You take the extra cash flow you've generated and you funnel it directly into your index funds. You don't see it. You don't touch it. You don't use it to buy a new truck. You let the machine start to turn. The reality of 2026 is that nobody is coming to save you. The government is buried in debt, the social security system is a question mark, and the corporate world has no soul. But for the person who takes total responsibility for their financial destiny, this is the greatest era of opportunity we have ever seen. You have access to more information, more leverage, and more global markets from your laptop in a coffee shop than a billionaire had 30 years ago. The only thing standing between you and a life of total freedom is the logic you apply to your capital and the discipline you have to stay the course when things get difficult. Don't be the person who watches this video and does nothing. Be the person who picks one strategy we discussed today and executes it with clinical precision. Whether it's moving to a tax-friendly state, starting that AI-driven side hustle, or finally setting up your automated investment plan, the time to move is now. The gap between the people who understand the fortune logic and the people who don't is widening every day. Make sure you are on the right side of that divide. This is the fortune logic. If you found value in this deep dive, hit the like button and subscribe to join a community of Americans who are taking their power back. I'll see you in the next one.